My next guest has got a really big fight coming up here against Jim Miller at UFC on ABC2 on April 10th. It's Joe Solecki back here on the program. Joe, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going really good. Just staying busy, training, getting ready for the fight, and doing all the fun stuff in between with the family. It's been pretty great.
Yeah, let's start there. How's fatherhood been treating you? Because I know since the last time we talked, obviously you became a dad.
Yeah, man, it's been fantastic. It's been everybody says it changes everything, but I think some people are saying it in the wrong way, but I don't think people talk about how awesome it is. It's it couldn't be any better. It's just giving me I don't know. I feel like I grew up in the sport overnight. I've always been pretty mature outside the sport, but it's put fighting in perspective for me. It's put an emphasis on how much I love to be home with my family, and it's given me, I don't know, it's made me a lot happier of a person just outside of the sport. Sometimes when we're on the way up on the regional scene and stuff, you just got you get the blinders on. You're just focused on one thing, and you can kind of be sectioned off from everybody. And this has just been such an awesome thing. I have these two contrasting lifestyles. I was saying yesterday at 8 a.m. I was in bed, waking up with my daughter, and she's snuggling the heck out of me and everything. And then yesterday at 8 p.m. was my fight simulation, and I had, between my two grappling partners and the pad holder, I was 3 grown men trying to send me into cardiac arrest. So it's just awesome. It's two opposite lifestyles.
How excited were you when you found out you'd be fighting on ABC, just the second card in history for the UFC?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm not quite sure. Is my fight going to be on there? Or
I just know it's part of the card, but nonetheless, just to be a part of an event like this, cool. I think is pretty awesome, right? So it's
amazing. That's we were talking about it the other day when we found out. It's 3, 6, and 10. The main, everybody gets those channels. So I think it speaks volumes for where the sport's headed too. So I think it's becoming more and more mainstream, where you can go tell your grandparents what you do for a living. They're like, yeah, I know the UFC. I saw it on ABC the other night. That's pretty cool. So it's just growing and growing and growing.
Well, and the thing is, and this has sort of been your fight career, you make it a short night, you get a finish. I mean, there's a good chance it could be on there, and then, that gets even more exposure. So that's kind of I think a nice sort of tidbit on top of, this fight. And then there's the fact that you're fighting Jim Miller. I mean, you must have been thrilled to get that matchup, a veteran, a guy who's been in the sport for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm from New Jersey originally. I lived in New Jersey for the first almost 20 years of my life. So I'm a Jim Miller fan. I'm a Miller Brothers fan. And I think it's pretty cool to be able to fight someone that I look up to, and I used to, and I still do look up to. It's funny because a lot of what I do, grappling wise and stuff, we have similar tendencies in a lot of ways. So if it hits the floor, it can be a fun fight. But it's just cool to be at that point where, I knew Matt Wyman, and I watched him on Ultimate Fighter and some of his fights, but he wasn't that household name in the sense of everybody knows who you're fighting, And then Austin Hubbard was another guy like me, like a prospect. Now I've got that name where I can go after and, really see how I stack up in this division and really, show what I've been working on and show that I belong here, and it's been a pretty cool trajectory so far, and it just continues. So what an opportunity and what an honor.
Style-wise, how do you look at this fight?
He's not like my last two opponents, so I don't mean that technique for technique, but I think it's more the same. I went into both of those fights knowing, and everybody's super tough, but you get technicians and you get guys that can definitely be grinded out very easily and will break, I haven't had that in any of my past two opponents, and any of my opponents in the UFC. So he's a continuation of that in the sense of, okay, it's just building off the last camps, knowing we're grinding for 15 minutes. If something comes up, fantastic. It did in the Hubbard fight. He didn't have that in the scouting report. This is a guy we're probably going to choke out early. And neither does Jim Miller, So it's somebody that I'm going to have to bring a full arsenal and a full skill set and get to show it against. So, we're clocking in for 15 minutes, and it's one of those, 15 minutes is up, then I can clock out and lose focus for a second. But until then, there is no fool's gold on the way out of this fight. I'm not going to be like, oh, armbar, I'm going for it. Or, ooh, let me try and finish him in the first minute with a choke. So we kind of know what we have to do. I have to grind him for 15 minutes, and that'll be enough.
You mentioned being from New Jersey originally. Do you have any mutual friends that know Jim or have trained with Jim that are, maybe being I'm going to stay out of this because of, knowing you or anything like that? Or is that not even a thing?
No, I think he's from pretty far up north. I mean,
okay.
I know that part of, I don't know where that falls in the geography of New Jersey. For such a small place, there's so many towns. But I'm from more closer to outside of Philly. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Pretty far
Canadian over here, so American geography not my strong suit. But yeah, I just figured I'd ask anyways. So
I'm from New Jersey, and I can't even figure it out. But Yeah, the only connection or 6 degrees of separation that I have, other than somebody sent me a picture they took with him the other night, which is weird and funny, like 10 years ago, is my coach John Salter fought Dan Miller at UFC 118 in Boston, and that was the only, up until I moved to North Carolina, that was the only UFC I'd ever been to. It was my 17th birthday, and I was actively cheering, and I might have told this on here or somewhere else. I was actively cheering against my coach, John Salter, because I didn't know him at the time, and was like, yeah, Miller Brothers, New Jersey, I love these guys. So I asked him if on Fight Night he's going to be cheering for Jim as payback while he's in the corner, but hopefully not. But that's our 6 degrees of separation. No mutual training partners or anything.
Who are you getting to work with for this camp? You talked about John Salter, one of the best middleweights in the world. I mean, he should be fighting Gegard next for that Bellator title. Who else are you getting to work with?
Yeah, the best middleweight, one of the, like you said, one of the best middleweights in the world, and then something that my coach Jeff Jimmo has been saying about John, and I couldn't agree more, is the best grappler in MMA. It's so crazy what that guy does to high-level guys to come through in the room. But, so always working with John Salter and everybody at Salty Dog, Corey Crumpler. Got another training partner for this camp who I've been using for a while, but he came down to go to college here and was like a stud purple belt, but was like still not quite grown. And then you know how I went through it at that age where you're like, oh, I'm 19 and I'm squirrely and good scrambler, and then by like 21 you're just like, totally different person. Is Wyatt Hopkins, really good purple belt and just stud wrestler, who's been kind of helping me. Well, we do a lot of scrambles and live rounds, but then he's been doing like my fight simulation stuff, like trying to hold him down and stuff, and it's just been a nightmare. So those guys, everybody at Salty Dog, still going on to Fitness Edge MMA in Myrtle Beach where I started, and I'll always train there. And my boxing coach, Chris Gowd, and my training partners there. I got Cody Jones and Jordan Weeks, and they're just super helpful. I was just saying the other day, like, Jim's a left-hander, so we don't change everything based on that. I want to get the best looks, but we got guys doing their best to go out of their way to go left-handed or to, go for extra chokes or whatever it might be. Just they're just such team players, And then we go every week up to Charlotte, to Gastonia, to Jimmo with Jeff Jimmo. So there's no secret what a stable he's produced out of there, and he's always on point. He runs the whole camp. Even, we're there a couple days a week, but he runs everything for me while I'm here too. I'm in communication with him constantly, and no one lays out stuff or has a mapping out process or a better game planning process than him. So we've just been super fortunate to have all these guys, and I think we got the right recipe. I really, really do.
How's the weight cut going ahead of this fight?
It's good. It's funny. I really don't step on a scale too frequently between fights at all, because I'm always kind of training and I'm always kind of eating healthy. But I'm right on track. 2 weeks out, I'll have those benchmarks that I want to start hitting. But other than that, it's really just eating to fuel my body and keep eating enough until I feel like I have good energy. And then, 2 weeks out, we kind of taper down a little bit, and I should be good to go with that water cut.
How's this fight playing out on April 10th?
I see a 3-round grind. I really, really do. I know I say that every time, but I really, really do with him. If something presents itself, I'm a pretty aggressive fighter. I'll go after it. But I really, really see I said it in another interview, I have to be better everywhere. That's where it's going to be. And not meaning my skill set even has to be better, but I have to out-hustle. So if we're in a scramble, I have to out-hustle to win. If we're in an exchange, I got to out-hustle to hit him and move my head out of the way. And I think that extra hustle is what's going to put me over the edge there and get my hand raised after 3 rounds.
Where does a win over Jim Miller put you in the grand scheme of things? Because that's a nice name to have in the resume.
Yeah, I think it's going to – again, every single fight, I go out there with, like, if I win this fight, good things are going to happen, And I'm just taking that approach with it. I was asked the other day, like, where does it put you in terms of a ranking or this and that? It sounds bad, but I really don't care, I really just want to get out there and beat him. But it means a lot to me, and that's what's important right now is, like, the win, providing for my family is going to mean a lot to me and my family. And then beating somebody like Jim Miller means a lot to me personally because, I'm a fan of the sport, and I watch everything. I've been watching every single fight since I was a little kid, and he's one of my favorites. So a win over him really solidifies to me that I know I belong here, but that solidifies my belief that I can compete with anybody on any night.
Downtime, I'm sure, has changed a bit. Just being a dad, I'm sure you're spending lots of time with the little one. But what else are you getting up to when you're not training?
Gosh, that's been a lot of my downtime is sleeping and then hanging out with the little one just because I want to. It's not really a chore. Like people talk about it like it is, but it's been a blast. We watched a lot of little kids sing along videos.
Probably got them all memorized and all that.
Yeah, I think before on fight night, before I walk out at some point, it's going to be in my head, just because it's always in my head. But yeah, that's it. We're waiting for that good weather to come here in Wilmington, so we can go out to the beaches and the boats and all that good stuff. But gosh, just watching a lot of movies. I think what everybody's doing during quarantine, binge watching everything we can, trying to find series we haven't found yet, and then getting takeout, which gets less and less as the fight gets closer. But yeah, just hanging out with the family. It's been kind of nice. This past year has been very, very simple. Just hanging out, and it couldn't be any better, man. I couldn't ask for more blessing to be home with my family and then just training.
Joe, always appreciate the time, man. It's UFC on ABC2 coming up here April 10th. Anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody that supports me, the guys that we all talked about, obviously my coaches who I already named, and then my original lifelong coach in New Jersey, John Hassett. I wouldn't be here without him, obviously. He just got me started in all of it. And it's fun because he stresses out a lot, I think, because, he's known me since I was 6 years old. So even with the Wyman fight, on fight day, he was walking in the hotel to say, hey, and I was like, oh, that's who's going to calm me down. Mr. Hassett's always calm, cool, and collected. I've never seen someone more nervous in my entire life. He came in and was rambling. It was not him. So I texted him when we got the fight before I told anybody. I was like, hey, if you were nervous for Wyman and Hubbard, I got a name for you. We're fighting Jim Miller. And he was super pumped about it. So I just want to thank him. And then obviously my wife, who keeps everything running while I'm out training. We were laughing today is me and John were talking. I'm like, we train really hard. And it's a really hard job, but we're kind of like the Lost Boys. We never grew up. I'm just out. Yeah, we're training real hard. Then afterward, I'm just messing around with my buddies in the gym, cooling down. And, she affords me that opportunity to be able to chase that dream for us, So obviously I want to thank her and thank my daughter. Just they provide me so much inspiration. I don't believe in motivation that much because that ebbs and flows, but I believe in inspiration. I'm lit on fire for this one. I've never trained harder in my life because I know what it means, and it's all thanks to them, I think trying to get here was something I could feed off my own ego and all that stuff, but that's all very, very short-lived stuff. Now I've got something to fight for, and that's a wife and a daughter. So just I want to thank them and my family and everybody that supports me, and just I appreciate it. And looking forward to really going out there and showing what I can do on April 10th.